have some ups.
It's pretty amazing that they open actually. All the bolts come loose on this frame.
And some downs for you.
Because I found the elephant's foot of Chernobyl.
Holy Jesus. What is that? What the f*** is that?
This is brutal. We see the frame damage is excessive.
And of course, everything in between. Stay tuned for today's episode.
Welcome back to another episode of Ranching. On today's episode, we will make a little more progress on the White 60. As you have seen in the last episode, I lifted the body of the frame in order to be able to repair the body. In the meanwhile, I pressure washed the frame, also the engine because it was oily. After the pressure washing, I discovered where the thing is welded. I mean, I knew it before, but you couldn't see it because there was Bondo on it. Now the Bondo is away and I see now that, it is welded in this length of the frame. In order to repair this big welded something, I have to remove the rear axle. You could do it by just remove the rear axle, but I remove normally everything. So I get the engine out, the front axle. It's just easier to move the frame around, to turn the frame, just to make it easy for yourself. And it is also easier in terms of welding because you don't have to weld overhead. It's just easier. And what we do now is we get the frame down to the bare bone until just the frame is left. First of all, sorry if you hear some banging noise or some wind. It is pretty windy today, and that's a thing I can't do anything. It's just how it is.
We finished the roof not so long ago and had to secure it somehow.
So, and now back to the frame. This is the piece they welded in. Pretty disgusting. And there is the Bondo. Yeah. I scraped it off and that was underneath actually. It is just a messed up repair. I mean, I see here one rivet. There should be another one and here should be also one. But there is none. And that's why I will get down the frame to the bare bone, because I already know it will be a lot of cutting involved in that repair. Now we will start with the engine to get it out of the frame because it's the heaviest piece actually. Afterwards there are just the axles anymore attached to it. If you ever rolled a frame with an engine in it, it's pretty hard. So let us start. In order to get the engine out of the frame, we have to disconnect some things. Oh, and here you see. You remember when I talked last time about the drainage plug and somebody rounded it? That's the drainage plug. No, there is nothing flowing out. It is made of bronze. And I got it out. And also I have to admit, when I pressure washed the frame, I flushed the engine with the pressure washer. And the only thing what flowed out there was black, disgusting, oily, rusty something. Later, after we repaired the frame, we will get to the engine, but the engine is now not really the main character in this episode. It is just, we have to get it out. In order to remove the frame, we have to disconnect the drive shafts, both of them, from the transfer case. Then we have to open the bolts who connect the transmission to the frame cross member, two motor mounts. I already disconnected last time the power steering pump, so we don't have to do that. And actually, probably there is something small I forgot. Oh yeah, the exhaust. Now we will get off the exhaust. Hopefully I don't strip the bolts, but we will see. We will see when I get to it. No, I can't get there. Yeah, they move. It's pretty amazing that they open actually, but it is no 61. That's the manifold don't get as hot as a turbocharger, so it's probably the reason why they open, because normally they suck. It's pretty amazing when you think how old this stuff is and how good it looks besides the frame. I mean, that's a different story, but show me a normal production car who lasts that long.
Volkswagen, das Auto.
I mean, yeah, okay, some of the old American stuff does also last forever. But besides that, there is not much out there. Most cars are built now for like 2, 3, 4, 5 years, and then they fail. So if someone wants something longer lasting without getting any money from Toyota, buy a Toyota. We were able to remove the exhaust without breaking anything, or at least loosen the bolt. Next thing will be the 2 drive shafts front rear, and then the cross member, and the magic is done. I already missed some things, but there are normally washers in there. There are no washers. It would suck if the bolts come loose, huh? They don't cost a ton of money at the Toyota dealership. It's like 25 cents a washer. I mean, the bolts are expensive. Isn't ever seen a drive shaft fly away? I have seen several years ago a drive shaft fly away on a gas. American viewers don't know what a gas is. A gas is a Russian, not a minivan, it is a 4-wheel drive bus. It's more like, not a E350, more like a 150, between a 150 and a 250 with solid axles. And the guy who owned it was back then in my shop and said he had some vibrations in the driveline, and I drove with it and they were pretty bad. I wouldn't drive it anymore. He said, no problem, because I only live 10 kilometers away. I will drive slowly home. About 15 minutes, half hour later, he called me. The drive shaft ripped off the transfer case of the transmission, and on his way out under the body, he bent like the body panels, the floor panels, like this much up, and also smashed the rocker panel. Luckily, nobody was driving behind him or besides him, so nobody died. And that's why put some 25-cent washers on your drive shaft if the manufacturer wants washers there. Now we will get the rear drive shaft out with a little help of the pry bar. Sometimes if there is so much grease in them, they're hard to remove. They have already a lot of oil and somebody overgreased it. What I mean with overgreased it, so there is the slip yoke, more or less. Should only put 2 pushes of the grease press in it. But some people like it when they like, if the grease does push the drive shaft apart. But what it does then is brings a constant pressure on the pinion, and that's not good for the bearings. And because there is already tearing oil out of it, I assume, yeah. There we have the rear drive shaft. Now we remove the front drive shaft, and on the front drive shaft there is a washer on it. So I assume somebody lost the washers when he removed the rear drive shaft. There we have the front drive shaft. What, yeah, does not run very smooth. So, because it has 2 joints, what means it can make a lot more angle than a normal drive shaft. And in the middle there is a ball running. And this ball, through that hole, you can reach a grease nipple. But nobody ever greased that. So we will see if some greasing will get it operate smooth again. And if not, we will have to do something about that. The next thing, or last thing actually, is to remove the transmission bracket, and then the engine actually just sits in there because he's heavy. So, now where we have removed actually anything, no! Here we have the ground cable. Now we will attach a frame to this nice brackets Toyota already put on the engine, because they like to think. So now I will attach the chain to this bracket to make it ready to get it out with a chain hoist. That should be pretty easy because the hoist can lift 1,000 kilograms.
Fortunately, we finished the crane and the hoist like 2 hours before, like real professionals. And maybe I hit myself with the drill, but just maybe.
There we have the mighty 2H out of the frame, and what we do next will be remove the axles of the frame and also the bumpers and the exhaust, and then the frame is nearly empty. Now where we got the engine out, I will get now a coffee and afterwards remove the axles. Why we do get out this frame? Because we have to repair it, for the viewers who don't know, but watch the last 2 episodes and the 2 episodes will reveal everything to you. So now we will push the frame over there in order to make it easier for me. Now we will push. Okay, the next thing is we remove the exhaust system. In order to do that, we have to loosen these bolts on the rubber brackets, and then we can just pull it out. When you know a 60 and you ask yourself, hey, why did he didn't remove the brackets? Because the brackets are welded solid with the frame. Exhaust is out. Next thing, rear axle. We will get the rear axle out. In order to do that, we will use 2 car checks, check the frame in the rear up, get the axle out, put it on the ground, make the same in the front. In order to be able to remove it, we have to open this bolt and the 2 bolts on the shackle on both sides. Get the shocks out, or at least loosen them up there. Get this, I know how it is called on English. It's a Bremskraft, on German, not on English. On German it's a Bremskraftregler. We have to get this one out and then the axle is loose. And the handbrake cable just stays on the axle for the meantime. We will get to that when we redo the axles. I forgot to say you have also to get the brake lines off and the axle breather, but I mean, isn't that difficult? Even if someone, I mean, it seems that someone replaced the bushings. But if you replace the bushings, can you clean up the pin a little bit? I mean, it is rusted as beep. Wire brush. Everything should be loose and the axle should go out. If I didn't miss anything. No, it is just stuck a little bit here on the bushings. So, there we have the axle, our axle rose. And because the tires are on, it's easy to roll it out.
Here we are removing the rear axle. Just a little tip, if you have nobody to help you, just attach the motor crane to the back and lift it up.
Now where the rear axle is out, we do the same with the front axle. The only difference on the front axle, the word already says front axle. We have steering attached, so we have to get it off of the pitman arm on the steering box. But with the right tools, it's pretty easy. If you have just a hammer, it's not so easy, but with tools, it's easy. Now the same as in the front and the rear. That's the front. First of all, we will get off the stabilizer. In the rear, it has no stabilizer. Early 60s didn't have one. 61s from 89 owned by me also have none because I cut it out.
FBI, open up!
There we have the special tool afterwards for getting the steering joints out off. I don't know how it is called in English, but on German it's Abzieher. I think the English word will not be Abzieher, but it will be not similar, but something in that direction.
And then I had to show my little brother something.
Schau dir mal an, wie schief das sein. Original.
Da siehst du her. Und da siehst du, wie viel besser das geworden sein über die Jahre. Da ja, da.
Kom rammen schwarzen. Weil der rammen aus das nicht mehr.
We were talking about the welds on the early Toyota frames and how they look. Here, for example, they just more or less tack welded it every few centimeters and that's it. And that's why probably the frame did expand a little bit when they did the repair back then, but I don't know it for sure.
Now we will get the steering off. We will get the steering from the pitman arm. It's easier to remove steering joints with the impact. If you do it by hand, it is, yeah, like everything you do by hand besides some things, but in terms of the steering, it's probably the best. You do it with impact and invest the money in some Abzieher. Actually, the description of this tool says don't go on it with impact. But yeah, as it is, I mean. And it's out. So we remove the steering. Now, the same as the rear, we have to remove the breather hose, the axle breather hose, that's this hose, and then we have to, where it is, there it is, remove the brake hose, and then the shackles out, and we are done and can roll it out. Oh, and the shocks. I forgot the shocks.
How any snows does the growth used?
To sponsor a little bit the tobacco industry. As I said, we have to remove the shackles. I already got the shocks loose, and to my surprise, the shock bolts actually didn't rip off. Normally they rip off, but someone already had most of this stuff open, I think, the last 20 years where they restored it. Restored it really good, but at least the bolts are not a pain in the ass. So rear front axle, and then the next thing you will see is the thing on stands. As you can see, the frame is nearly empty. The only thing, or one of the things, not the only thing, we will remove the brake lines, the fuel lines, and the sedimeter thingy dingy. We will let the steering box on and the motor mounts. So we're working in this rear area, and also the trans cross member stays in, and the hitch. Because the hitch is the only thing what holds the frame and the rear together. After I cut off these, I mean, I think this can stay, the shock tube. I don't know if, but, and yeah, we'll just remove the rest, and then we will start to assess the damage on the frame.
This is where we called it a day, because it was already getting very late and dark, and also it was very cold on this day, and actually I was pretty happy how far we got in this short amount of time.
So, we stopped yesterday working because it was too cold. So now we have a, let's say, not so windy day, but still as cold. And we will progress to tear this thing apart. What I do now is get rid of the brake lines and the fuel lines. And then we will already start to cut things out of this frame. So the only thing, or one of the things I wonder about is all the bolts come loose on this frame. Normally in the 61s, they just, especially brake, I mean, yes, you see the brake lines are, somebody already changed the brake lines, but still, like, bolts here never were open, so it's a positive thing. Ja, das ist nicht sicher. Ich habe alles aufgehört, den Ding, oder?
Die hinein willst du Müll anreißen.
I try to get the last bumper bolt off, but he spins. At least we have some new bolts in the bumper, but the old bolts in the frame open, the new bolts turn. And why is that? Because someone over-tightened it and rounded it. Choop. Then we have the last bolt. My fingers are cold as beep. Where does it? Oh, it's part of the hitch. It's a part of the hitch. That looks very professional. Oh, that's the hitch bolts. I can open it. Pretty good. Yeah, very professional. Put some whatever it is called in English on there. Sure, that holds.
Alter, du hast gerade so einen Aufwand lassen. Was ist das? Fuck, ich kann dir kotzen.
So wie das eine Meme, wo die Kotze-Hischpfeife der Hundenscheiß lässt.
What the hell?
Marty, no, honey.
So, there we have the hefty bumper. Yeah, okay, it's not a new bumper. I thought it is new. It is not. It's just rattle can. But the end caps on these bumpers have a Toyota part number, so I assume they are new and they were expensive. So at least something expensive on this car. And now, without the bumper, you see the hefty rear cross member they put in. The C-channel from a garden sound, probably. And the hefty C-channel holds with 1, 2, 3, 4 M8 bolts. Yeah, I think they thought the hitch is so massive it could be a structural part, but yeah, the hitch is not made to hold a frame in the rear together. It is something actually carry some weight or tow some weight and not hold a frame in the rear together, because when you just have the hitch on the rear here and you see from here to here is actually nothing that holds the frame together. There you have the rear leaf spring mounts where the axle is attached. So you have to imagine when you drive, let's say, wobbly road, the axle goes up and down, up and down and up and down, and you have no cross member in here. So wait, I just get the bumper down. So you have to imagine up and down, up and down, up and down, and this part here will start to wiggle because the force, so in German is die Kraft sucht sich immer den leichtesten Weg, what means the force always searches for the easiest way. And the easiest way is just that the C-channels start to bend outwards, because this strengthening whatever, what is like welded here and here, they do nothing. But we will repair it. So there we have the C-channel. Okay, in terms of thickness, it is nearly the same thickness as the frame. There is nothing bad about putting a straight C-channel in there. If we can go to the other frame, look at it. It is just easier. I have still a little construction side, but I'm a one-man show, so it is kinda difficult. If we look on this original C-channel on the later 60s with the, let's say, two-piece bumper, so you have one left and right, in the middle you have a step. It is bent inwards. This frame actually doesn't have this C-channel, it has just the bent piece, because the earlier frames were not as stiff as the later ones. But you could put in such a straight C-channel. The only thing, don't put M8 bolts in it. The original one is welded here and here into the bent piece, so it is an actual one-piece thing and not something bolted in with two tiny bolts, and that's it. It's, yeah, just bull. Now we have the frame empty besides the steering box and everything on the front. But we do nothing in the front, not now. Now we will cut off all this excessive work to make an assessment where the damage actually is. I will get out this cross member. I will not hack it up or cut it up. We will cut open the welding and then get it out so I can weld it in afterwards again. And then we'll cut down this whatever U-shaped thing they welded over it, that we know how badly damaged the frame actually underneath is. Reverse C profiles, but the actual old C profiles are still in there, just totally hacked up. It is just they tried to get it, hammer it out somehow, whatever. They messed everything in here up, but that's not the, let's say, magical stuff. I assume the guy who made this frame or repaired it was probably from Chernobyl, because I found the elephant foot of Chernobyl under the reactor.
Holy Jesus. What is that? What the f that?
That's some masterclass, Wells. I am proud of you. Now, we already removed the rear C channels. I will cut out this support without destroying it. So we will cut open the welds Toyota made, and they made, it is not Toyota. So we can weld it in after the repair and after cleaning up. So it is a piece of the frame again, but now we cut it off. So there we have the support. Behind the support the frame has a hole, also on the other side. Now where we removed the support, we will cut out what they welded on. We will cut under the weld somewhere around here to just get it off to see what is underneath. Same on the other side. There is also, looks the same. The frame is actually damaged underneath. I mean, you have seen the hole on the other side, but that is, sure, it is a big deal, that hole, because when I knock on the U profile, I already hear this fin. But Toyota gave me the opportunity. They welded it in here. Here, I can cut it open. That is a straight piece that is easy to bend and make two new ones for the inner thing. The only thing what is kind of difficult is the shape of the U on the inside, because here the frame is thick, here it gets thinner. That's a problem on the press. I can't bend that actually. And also when I start to cut out the U's, I have to weld in some stiffness into the frame, because there will be nothing besides the trailer hitch who holds it together, and probably the frame will twist in a direction because there is tension on it from the welding. Not only from the welding of this repair, there is also tension for sure on it where Toyota welded it. I have to say there is a difference in the early and late frames. When I look at the early frames, they just made some, let's say, not spot welds, but some like this long welds to get the frame tack the frame together. And on the later ones, the welds are like this long. So they for sure made the frames better and better by each year. And also the frame damage on the later ones is never as excessive as on the early ones. So I assume they made it better. I know that the later ones also have no cavity wax or anything in them, but probably the steel is better, or I don't know. But they're not as extensive damaged as the older ones, because I already told you like 1 or 2 episodes back, I owned myself a 60. It was a E3, I think. It was 20 years ago, so my memory isn't as good as it was. And I had the same kind of damage up to around here, yeah. So I assume that's a thing on the early frames, but we will see when I cut it off how extensive it is.
So, was sagst du dazu?
Solange das Rückgrat nicht gebrochen ist, ist da unten, ist das reparierbar. Wenn wir das nach innen überschneiden.
Ja, das auch. Das ist brutal.
With a gouge drinnen. Now where we cut down the repair, we see the frame damage is excessive. As I said before, to replace from here to here on the inner layer isn't a big problem. The problem is the outer U or the outer frame. I don't know if back of the frame is already broken. Back of the frame is more or less. So if you imagine 2 U's go in each other. There we have the outer one, there is the inner one. They go in each other, and here, the frame has, let's say, double the thickness of the actual U's, and that's more or less the back of the frame. That is what carries the weight. Most viewers will now ask or get a replacement frame. The problem is there is no replacement frame. I could probably get a also damaged frame. Pretty sure I could, but they will be also damaged in the same area from here to here. As I said, the later ones are better made. The holes are smaller. I normally weld, but also they are 10 years younger. Not 10 years, but 89 and 81, 82. There is some years in between. And also it makes a difference where the car spent his life. And this car spent his life in the mountains in Austria. And that is how a 4x4 looks in the mountains in Austria. So you can imagine how much salt there is on the roads. So, and now we will get to the plan what we will do. I will get out from here to here. First of all, the complete intersection. In order to do that, I have to stiffen the frame. What means I have to weld on some bars here on the underside, in the rear, put a stiffener underneath it so the frame doesn't bend. I mean, it will bend for sure, but I have the Toyota manual, so the frame manual, so I know where it should be. Also I have more 60 frames here where I can take measurements. Besides that, I worked actually a time on semis, so that frame is not, it's not a real frame, it is more a toy if you look on a semi, but it is repairable. But the only thing is it will be an extensive repair, and actually we will see. Actually, I cut now, not now, for you it will be probably the next episode, the inner C's out, or try to cut them out as a part. I mean, besides that, that is what it is. To make them on a press, and when I get this bands out, everything here is easy to replace and easy to remake because everything is the same size. The problem starts here where the frame gets thinner in diameter. That's a thing. I have to talk to a friend, or actually two friends. They are in the metal business for a living, so they know how to make some things different than I do it. And also they have really big machines. I am positive we can repair that, and also the frame looks afterwards like nothing ever happened. But it will be very time consuming to repair that. Get down all the brackets, this, everything, so we just have the rear C's anymore. Even if you saw this episode, I will probably make an update in between because there is much to do on this thing. But you will see that in a future episode. I hope you liked that episode. Hit the subscribe button. Please follow our channel. Warte mal. If you liked this episode, please subscribe, hit the like button. Hi, Schatz. Kack. If you like this episode, please subscribe, hit the like button, follow us on our social media, and we see us the next time on ranching.